Hello there, everybody. I am probably not the face you were expecting to see tonight, but I just wanted to let you folks know that tonight's Deep in the Plus was originally aired live on May 23rd as a part of the fundraiser for the cast member pantry. This episode is going to be a little bit shorter than what our normal episodes have been, and there are a few mentions during the show of links to donate. Those links are no longer live, so don't feel like you need to visit those. But we did want to cut this out and get this posted up as a separate video for you folks because this is a good review and a good movie too. So if you have not seen it yet, here you go.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Deep in the Plus Live. Each week we go deep in the Disney Plus catalog and find a movie or a TV show that maybe you haven't seen in a while or you haven't seen at all. This week we're going into the 1963 classic animated feature, The Sword and the Stone. It's almost like Eric knew what was going on Deep in the Plus. This Disney adaptation of the classic King Arthur story is about a little orphan boy named Wart and his journeys in meeting Merlin, and we are very excited to talk about this movie tonight, and talking with me tonight is the one and only Miss Jill Diffendahl. How's it going, Jill?
Hello, I'm good, and I'm excited because this is one of my favorite Disney classics. So I'm excited we get to talk about it and maybe kind of pique everyone's interest. I feel like it's probably been a while since most people have seen this film, so pique your interest and go check it out all over again because it's got so much goodness buried down in there. Deep in the Plus.
Yeah, this is one of those that you recommended, and I love this about Disney Plus, being able to go deep into the Disney catalog and find a movie that you haven't seen in a while. And honestly, I think there are a few that probably I feel like I've seen and haven't seen, and I'm not 100% sure I've ever seen this movie all the way through. It's one of those that, like, I know I've seen parts of it and I know all the Disney like parks references to it, but you know, in rewatching it, I was like, I'm not sure I've seen all of it. So it was really neat to go back into it and watch it again. And maybe I just forgot some of it, but it was really kind of cool to revisit this one. So what is it in particular that you find so appealing about this movie?
Well, so I think there's like everything Disney. I mean, for me, Disney is so much, my love of Disney, whether it's the parks or the films, is so much about nostalgia. And so growing up, I had the Disney Channel, and there would always be these little filler segments that they would do in between shows, like Welcome to Pooh Corner and all that good stuff. But they would do these little filler segments or kind of really short clips in between shows where they would take snippets of feature films or shorts. They would also do snippets from some of the old Mickey shorts, like Mickey Through the Looking Glass and stuff. But things like the wizard battle was always between Mim and Merlin was always one of those segments where you'd see little clips of it. So I have all these really strong memories of these little clips of The Sword and the Stone from when I was a kid. And it just made me love the idea of, you know, I think a lot of kids growing up get enamored with, you know, the story of King Arthur and sort of the enchanting semi-reality, historical reality of King Arthur set in medieval England. And so this movie really plays on that. It's such a time period in history that people have so much sort of, you know, rose-colored feelings about that, you know, it probably wasn't really like that, but there's all this notion of chivalry and battle, and when things were sort of simpler and more straightforward that everyone, I think, really gravitates towards. And then this movie puts a whole Disney spin on it, which I think makes it just special and enchanting.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think digging back deep into it, there are a lot of things about it that that I think are special about this movie. It was the 18th full-length animated feature, definitely something Walt had worked on. And I don't know if you found this when you were looking back into it, but the T.H. White book that it was based on, Disney had the rights decades before this. So they had been working towards this movie for quite a long time, and it didn't come out until Christmas Day, 1963. So when it came out, it only cost $3 million to make, which seems insane compared to something like Frozen today and how much money that costs. You know, the animation is just very true and authentic. When I'm watching it, it's definitely pure Disney, but it's, you know, it's a little rough, but that kind of makes it timeless. And and I really enjoyed it. You know, a lot of things that you and I talk about when we dig deep into these movies are the voice actors. And so when I went to look at the list of the voice actors, the first one that jumped out to me was Sebastian Cabot, which he was the narrator in this, and he was also Sir Ector, Wart's father, for lack of a better term. But he was also Bagheera in Jungle Book and the narrator there. So it's a great voice to hear, especially as the narrator, and it really puts you in that Disney space.
So for me, from a voice acting standpoint, the two things that the voice in this movie that sticks with me the most is Archimedes. I just absolutely, he's just got such a classic voice. And then he was voiced by Junius Matthews, who also did the original voice of Rabbit in Winnie the Pooh. And again, nostalgia, I like as a child, especially Winnie the Pooh, you know, before the age of 10, Winnie the Pooh was absolutely my jam. And so, you know, hearing that voice and it sounds so much like Rabbit, you know, and he's just sort of this stern, cranky guy, and yet it's soft underneath. And, you know, he really cares about Wart, and it's really endearing. The other thing that I think is cool is Thurl Ravenscroft does a voice, and it's kind of a super minor character of one of the knights. But, you know, from a Disney park standpoint, you've got that huge tie-in that Thurl Ravenscroft was one of the busts in Haunted Mansion, singing in the graveyard, and then he's also done, you know, some voice work for other things like Pirates and the Railroad. So having that Disney Parks tie is also
he was Fritz in the Tiki Room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you know the other voice that popped out to me was Jimmy McDonald. So he is the voice of the wolf in this, and I have sort of a hot take that I feel like the wolf's like Scrat. Like his story is happening beside there. It doesn't really interact. We could say that it's Disney now, right? I mean, they bought it. But when his story doesn't really interact, it sort of like happens beside them, except for when when he's chasing Wart as a squirrel. But most of it, it's just like he's kind of behind them and doing his own thing. And the fact that Jimmy McDonald, who was, for those who don't know, was the voice of Mickey from the time that Walt stopped until the time that Wayne Allwine started, it was really interesting that like he was uncredited in this, but he did all these like sounds and and just like oof and all, like when the wolf would get hit and stuff like that. So it was really neat that he was in
the wolf isn't a character. It's not an anthropomorphic wolf. He doesn't speak. He just makes wolf noises.
Yeah, exactly. And then speaking of voices, why doesn't Wart have a British accent?
So Wart was actually voiced by 3 different kids. They originally cast one kid, Ricky Sorensen, and then he went through puberty during the filming of the movie. So the director wound up casting both of his sons to do some of the voices. So you've got 3 separate voices voicing Wart, and none of them have British accents. So it is very, it's funny because I think if you just sit down and watch it not knowing that, you kind of miss it a little bit. It's not super glaring, but at the same time, as soon as you start hearing it, you can't stop hearing it.
Okay, so again, I know that you like to really research these things, so maybe you could tell me this. Madam Mim, is Madam Mim canon for this story?
Oh, you're asking me a question that I don't know the answer to, actually.
What? Okay.
I don't know
think
that.
It's interesting.
I know there have been characters like female sort of opposites, villains against Merlin in some Arthurian legend and tellings, you know, in more recent years of the Arthur story. But I don't know for certain that Mim is actually canon in any way.
Yeah, Colleen is blowing us up right now saying, no, it's not. But Morgan Le Fay. So it is interesting.
Morgan Le Fay, that's yeah.
To me, though, that they would add this character that is like a little less threatening and kind of a little bit more entertaining, really, to the story. And again, from the Wolf Den, that was one of the picks, was Madam Mim. So, and she's a great character. I really do like that character. Let me say something else. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's funny that, you know, when this movie came out, it was actually relatively it got a lot of mixed reviews. It was financially a success, but it got really mixed reviews from critics. And they basically said, you know, it's fun and sweet, but it's a little too light and it's a little too there's too much humor in it. And I think that's funny because it's made for kids. Like, this is supposed to be a telling of the Arthur story, kind of targeted to kids who are like Wart's age. So you're not going to make this a super sophisticated thing, and you're not going to make it as dark as the Dark Ages really were. And I think, you know, the fact that it's still so enchanting today really speaks to that, that sure, it's light and humorous, but there's still things in it that are laugh out loud funny and sweet, and there's a lot of good lessons that they try to teach little kids about the whole, and it's you know, a repeating Disney theme that, you know, no matter who you are, you can become anything you want to be. So I really think that shines through in this story really well, and is actually almost like hit you over the head, reinforce that they're sort of trying to teach kids lessons with this movie.
Yeah, you know what? I find it sort of zen from that standpoint, that it is very much trying to teach you a lesson. Each time that Merlin would bring Wart aside and turn him into something else, he was trying to teach him something else. I kind of find myself like getting absorbed into that and kind of trying to learn that lesson as well. Although I think that the one scene where he is turned into a squirrel and then the girl squirrel shows up, they come very close to almost like explaining the lesson of the birds and the bees. Without really doing that. So that just, I thought that was interesting when that came up. But yeah, I do think that there's a lot of lessons to be learned in it. You kind of go along as, you know, as like kind of a passenger on this story with Wart, and learn things as he does and see things from a different point of view. It's really classic Disney storytelling. So based on all this that we've talked about, and I think that I know what your answer is going to be on this, though, is, you know, as we always do on the show, I need to ask you, are you going to recommend this movie to anyone who hasn't watched it yet?
So before I answer that question, there are a couple of little tidbits that I want to point out about this movie, in case I need to convince anyone, because my answer is, my answer is yes, I'm absolutely going to recommend this movie. But for people that are kind of on the fence about it, but if you are a lover of Disney film, there's so much classic Disney film, like, just about this movie. The fact that it was the last animated film from Walt Disney Productions to be produced before Walt passed away. It was the very first film that the Sherman Brothers did music for. All four of the supervising animators were of Walt's 9 old men. So four of the 9 old men worked on this movie, which I think is just a sort of shows you how much classic Disney animation. But you've got Frank Thomas, Milt Kahl, Ollie Johnston, and John Lounsbury were all heavily involved in this movie. And then if you're a Parks fan, there's a little tie-in as well that Walt Paragoy did the backgrounds for this film. He had also done backgrounds for Sleeping Beauty, but in the Disney parks, he was heavily involved in a lot of the artwork at both Journey into Imagination and The Land. So when you're walking into The Land and you're walking up the hill and those 2 murals are on either side of you, that was Walt Paragoy. So there's so much tie to Disney, both Walt Disney himself, Disney Animation, and the parks in this movie, you know, not to mention the Sword and the Stone in front of King Arthur's Carousel. There's so much in this movie that I think any lover of Disney films or Disney parks will really resonate with. So yes, 100% recommend.
Well, for brevity, I'll agree, because I feel like Ben's playing us off with the URLs at the bottom. But
you're fine.
We hope you enjoyed the show. We want you to donate to the Cast Pantry. It's a great cause, and we're that's why we're here. We really appreciate anything tonight. Also, just a reminder to catch us Tuesday night for another Deep in the Plus live, and it'll be me, the beautiful Jill Diffendahl, the talented Katie Dunn, and the hunky Eric Wolf. And so we'll be talking about the latest Disney news. We'll be playing some games and having some discussions then too. So hopefully you can join us then. And then also we do a show every every Friday at 7 p.m. So we hope you join us there too. And again, donate. It's a great cause, and we really appreciate anything that you can give. So thank you, Jill, for being on the show.
You're very welcome. Thanks.